Welcome to the Modern Sports Show, home of your college athlete, where we are player-led and player-focused. And today's edition of the Modern Sports Show, just coming at you guys lax and chill. Um, Hope you guys have had a great weekend as we head into the week. Uh, I have something that I want to talk about, and that is this situation going on with Joey Aguilar. As I was doing research this week, I was trying to think of ways, think of topics, things for us to get into. And the one thing that I seen that really stood out was Joey Aguilar in his case against the NCAA to pretty much request another year eligibility. And some of the things that I read were actually quite hilarious, but also very educational. I will not be one of these talking heads in media that claims to know everything about everything when it comes to the NCAA and its governance over college sports. So this mainly, there are some things that I might be able to teach you guys. At the same time, I learned, through reading this particular article. I'll link that in the comments just for those who are interested if you want to go check that out. But I'm mainly gonna speak from a player's perspective when it comes to this, and like Corey tends to do, I always have segueing thoughts, and we'll speak on those. So pretty much what's going on right now is Joey Aguilar is um, placing a restraining order against the NCAA, and at the same time requesting a 6-year eligibility, I believe. Going into this season, he's going to be 25 years old. I think his birthday is like June, uh, this coming June. And for those who are unaware, he spent a couple years in the JUCO ranks out in California, if I'm not mistaken. And I think a season or maybe half a year at UCLA. We all know the trade between him and Nico Ameleava. Um, Either way, then he goes. I think actually he was at App State, Appalachian State. Then he goes to UCLA, then Tennessee. And actually, from what I've seen of him at Tennessee this year, I think it was a great year to build on, especially given the era Tennessee has been in since Hendon Hooker went to the NFL and so forth. So I saw a lot of star power from him, especially in that Georgia game this season. And I think they started the season fairly well. Maybe some would have, especially Tennessee Volunteer fans, would have had a much higher ceiling for how their season could have ended, being what we saw on the offensive side of the ball at times from them. Now, um, he will be 25, like I mentioned, going into this season. Is requesting a restraining order against the NCAA as well as a 6-year eligibility. I bring into play his journey prior to Tennessee because I reflect very, I reflect. I'll say I sympathize with his positioning on a identical level almost, right? When I was in college, I went to 5 colleges, okay? Um, I started my career off at Shelton State Community College. From there, transferred to New Mexico Junior College. From there, um, went to the University of Alabama, then UAB, then the University of Kentucky. And so at each point in my journey, I was trying to better my situation. That's not to say that there were times in my journey where I probably shouldn't have stayed at a school. Maybe I left prematurely, maybe I didn't, but I made decisions in my college career that, we could get into at another time. I said I might make a book one day. But as it pertains to Joey, I definitely understand. I'll say this. When I first read the article, I was very like, man, what is this guy doing? Uh he probably made a lot of money this past year at Tennessee. And, like it's really a paradigm shift in the sport. I'm gonna hold the thought on what I was getting ready to say. It's really a paradigm shift because you got guys who are like wanting to stay in college and forego the NFL. Some good reasons, others may be questionable, but back in the day, it was like the NFL, everybody trying to get to the league, but it's now the implications of NIL has made college football a lot more attractive, and players want to stay in longer and develop longer. Maybe even, I haven't, I'm not a big follower of college basketball. I got to get better at it. But I wonder, as I sit here and think, what are the implications of NIL and college basketball, especially with there being so many one and dones versus now, the players have the opportunity to make money in college. So kind of not like in a rush to get to the NBA. But that's another topic for another day. As it pertains to this, um, you know, Trinidad Chambliss comes to mind. Diego Pavia comes to mind when we talk about players that want to stay in college and forego the NFL for another year eligibility. And of course, they have the opportunity to make good money. And I was thinking maybe there's a case study that needs to be done in terms of the players that like have the opportunity to go to the NFL and what they would potentially make, right? Versus what they're making in college. Like maybe there needs to be some comparison. I'm sure they're getting some advice and being advised by their agents and coaches and people in these circles and stuff. So at the end of the day, if the NCAA were to grant these players, I think Trinidad Chambliss is in an appeal right now. If Joey doesn't win his case, I'm sure he's gonna appeal it. So like they'll have time and they will have opportunities to kind of see what direction they need to take their lives. But just speaking from a former player's perspective, when I read this about Joey Aguilar, I was kind of like, I understand it, like I would be, and I had to, as I was reading, I had to go back and say, you know what? Um, I think my mind has started to try to shift, right? Because it's been a couple seasons since I'm removed from SEC football and football at large. And so like my mind has tried to start to kind of shift towards, a fan perspective or someone who doesn't see the game like from a perspective of being in it. And so that really stood out to me with Joey. You know, I think another thing too is the COVID. COVID obviously has implications on the eligibility, especially for players who were in college pre-COVID, because those years where we were kind of in limbo with eligibility and what players were going to do, or how it affected players, should I say, right? There's been a lot of guys I see, this guy get a season, this guy maybe get two, just trying to, I won't say cheat the system, but try to use it to its advantage. There's so many cases, and the NCAA is fighting so many things from lawsuits and this and that. So I feel like a lot of times certain parties are able to kind of slip through the cracks and get what they want. But um, you know, I guess my claim in this video is with Joey, I have no issues with him doing it. At first, like I said, it was very kind of like, I don't know. But after taking some time, kind of digesting this information and also placing myself back in the shoes of the player, I think it's 100% okay for him to do what he thinks is best for his future. And, you know, I just, I think that, how can I say it? I think that when we're talking about something of this magnitude, right, it is very delicate, because if Joey leaves the NFL or leaves college and goes to the NFL and does not have a productive career or rookie season or whatever, as some may think he should, then it's like, well, you should have stayed in college. Now he's trying to stay in college. You got the other side saying, well, why would you pass up this NFL money? Go to the NFL. So, you know, and I'm not a big I don't really pay attention to like what naysayers say people should do this, that, and the third. Although I do enjoy perspectives. I talked about that on the last video. I just don't spend my time nitpicking and like people, oh, he should do this, he should do that. No, they should do what they believe is best for them, which, is kind of my case in point. But um and like I, like I, spoke to, I think another thing that, we all know is a problem, but I don't know, because of where we are today. I don't know who and how it would be done, but that is like the NCAA's governance, okay? And their place in NIL, transfer portal, and some of these things that they've kind of opened the floodgates. I think they were probably getting so battered down by these ideas at first that they just kind of were like, here are the keys, do what you want. Um, but it's like counter into or counter. It's like has been countered by so many things going on at once that is really, if it didn't before, it really has now damaged the credibility of the NCAA, because you got some players saying, hey, or you got some players that they're being granted extra seasons or whatever the case might be, right? 7th and 8th years. Then you got other players who are using those situations to try to go back and get more eligibility. They're being denied and having to go into appeal processes. So it's a lot of just so many different moving pieces. And I'll say this: I believe that each player has its own circumstances, and I don't think that there's a finite rule. Granted, you did have the 5 for 4, right? Players have 5 years to play 4 seasons, and I think it is they try to make it a one size fits all situation. But I mean, you negate that entirely if let's just say you have 2 ACL tears, right? That's 2 years down the drain, and then that's or could be presumably two, 3, because it takes months of recovery. So depending on where you get hurt in the calendar year, you're losing time. So it's situations like that um, you can't really one size fits all these situations. And I know there'll be people with opinions on maybe even what I say. Oh, it should be this or it shouldn't be that, which is fine. But I always just try to, like I had to do in Joey's case, go back into the player's perspective. Okay, think about what they might be dealing with, because ultimately the players, even though I know some hate the transfer portal, some hate NIL, at the end of the day, the players are what we watch the game for, who we watch the game for, the personalities and the uh, bravado and the moxie of these players. This is why we watch the game. This is what makes it fun. This is what makes it fun for you to cheer for your favorite teams and be a part of a fan base. So that's just a little of my thoughts on Joey Aguilar. I may go back and be editing this and be like, I should have added this in, or I should have said this. Um, but you tell me in the comments, what are your thoughts on Joey Aguilar? Give me some ideas on what you want me to be talking about over this off season. I'm steadily trying to find different angles and different things to speak about with this ongoing college football off season. So, guys, if you stuck around this long, I appreciate you for watching. Be sure to check out some of our player interviews from last season, as we are currently working on our player interviews and getting great guests on the show from this season. So I appreciate you guys. Like, comment, subscribe, share it to a friend, and I will see you on the next episode.